Local programming on KRWG Public Media made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
This is KRWG Public Media, TV, radio, online. News that matters. Now, across the Mesilla Valley and the borderland, the stories that shape our community. From the KRWG Broadcast Center at New Mexico State University, this is Newsmakers.
Thanks for joining us on Newsmakers. I'm KC Counts. Over 67,000 Afghans came to the United States following the U.S. withdrawal from the country and the return of power to the Taliban. Over 200 of those Afghans have resettled in Las Cruces. Today we'll hear from Dr. Syed Rafique Ahmed of the Southern New Mexico Islamic Center to hear how the process has been going and what these new residents are facing in terms of starting their new lives far away from their homes and in some cases their families. Dr. Ahmed, welcome back to KRWG, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for hosting me.
I'd like to begin by just asking you to reflect on what kind of service these individuals provided to the U.S. over 20 years since 9/11 and how crucial they were to the ongoing efforts of our military in Afghanistan.
So every individual out there contributed differently, right? So there are many people from my conversations to them over here. They were cooks for the military over there. They were generals over there who would help. There would be many of them who would work as translators for the military over there. So they helped the US government in diverse areas. Okay, and I think the biggest concern was once the Taliban came in, was they were considered as a threat. They were considered as somebody who cheated the Taliban, right? And that was the reason they felt not secure living in Afghanistan because of their help to the US government.
Can certainly understand how they would feel in that situation. And what was your perspective as you watched the images of the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan and just the desperation that you could see from people?
I mean, it was shocking, extremely shocking. The U.S. government spent so much infrastructure, trillions of dollars to help, stabilize the Afghanistan government by providing support, by helping the local government. And for the government to just collapse in a few hours, in a day or so, that was just so difficult to digest, how could that happen? Just like in a few hours, that for me, because as somebody who follows the news, who do not know, the inner diplomacy and other stuff, as an outsider, for me that was very shocking. I just couldn't believe, can somebody just, collapse so easily? And now if you reflect, what's happening in Ukraine, you see the resistance that they're offering, okay? And you see billions of dollars going there, and they're able to, hold off a much stronger power, right? And we know Taliban was never such strong power like Russia. How come it collapsed? So for me, it's still mind-boggling.
There were still many questions surrounding that, and obviously there was a deal in place many months earlier with the Taliban for that U.S. withdrawal to come several months before it actually did. So, Dr. Ahmed, when you think about it, do you think of ways that the U.S. could have done things differently to get those critical people out of Afghanistan earlier?
The critical people, for example, the then president of Afghanistan, Karzai, right? If you hear his interview, he tells that he didn't know what's going to happen, and he had to fly out like as an emergency. He himself did not know what was happening in his own country, in his own backyard, right? And this tells what communication was going on between, the government and the Taliban when the president himself was not aware and he had to be rushed out of his own country. So, I don't know all the inside links, but from what information I'm getting, it just feels that, everything was laid on a platter to the Taliban.
And when you started to see the images of those flights coming out, was it surprising to you that we got as many Afghans out of the country as we did, or do you think that there should have been many more?
Everything was chaotic, right? Everything was chaotic. So, when things are planned better, you see more efficient things happening, right? And in chaos, maybe, if you had planned better, more people could have come, more families could have been united, more people could have come with their families. Instead, men coming, leaving their families back home, it could have been they could have been in a much better situation, those people who moved here, because many of the people who moved over here, they had to leave some of their family members back and they had to come because the concern was, hey, you're a man, at least you go there, maybe you will find some opportunity and you can help us, right? Had it been much planned, people would have, taken all their measures to bring their whole family, all their documentation, this and that.
Now, once the Afghans were evacuated and brought to the United States, they spent several months on military installations around the country. Can you tell us a little bit about what that process would have been like for them?
So, from information that I gathered from them, it was a matter of patience, right? Because all these infrastructures, were temporary infrastructures, and the U.S. government tried their best to incorporate them, to educate them, okay, on how to blend in, with the U.S. culture. So while they were at these camps, they were given a lot of information, a lot of material, that will help them. That will help them blend in to the American society, okay. But being there for a long time, many of the people were frustrated, because in their mind, they are like, hey, we are going to go to America, we'll find a job soon, and we can support our families back home. But there's a process, 3 months, 6 months, they were there, without work, without any money back home, their family members running out of funds, many people starving out there. So those were really the concerns. So all of them were itching to get out of the camps and start working.
Our KRWG public media scholar Noah Race talked with you and others about how the Islamic Center of Southern New Mexico and Las Cruces Public Schools are helping children to adjust to their new life here.
Tens of thousands of Afghan refugees have left their homes behind for a chance at safety. And with well over 200 refugees in Las Cruces alone, the transition has been anything but easy.
They feel pain, they feel emotions, okay? They have the same basic needs like every other human being. They want respect, they want to have their own dignity, okay? They want to live in peace.
Dr. Syed Rafique Ahmed of the Southern New Mexico Islamic Center has been helping the refugees adjust to life in New Mexico and has also been vital in helping educate the younger Afghans.
Many of them are from different education background and many of them do not speak English. So helping them train in English is a challenge. Even if you want to have classes for them, it's difficult because they don't have a transport.
They go through an interpreters or someone to translate for them, and obviously that's also, they're losing some of the content here because it depends who's translating.
Dr. Raja Shinde has been working closely to help educate the young refugees as well as aiding the parents in the transition.
The class that we opened here at the Center for Women, Youth and Children, we wanted to focus on girls. So we wanted to focus on them. So it's not just English. They come here, they can talk, we can, they feel like more connected and comfortable.
Along with starting their own classes, the Islamic Center has been working very closely with the Las Cruces Public School District to help in the education of the children at the public schools.
The teacher, the hired teacher to support them as an ESL teachers, they go to their classrooms and they do kind of a one-on-one. That's probably the most successful, I think, approach.
One of these English language learner teachers is Ashton Forrest. She has been working with some of the Afghan children at University Hills Elementary School and has seen the children grow and adapt to their new environment. This, however, did not happen overnight.
I mainly just wanted them to feel comfortable. I got one of them before the other, so I told the rest of the class that we were getting them, show them how far Afghanistan was, just so they can understand the immensity that their change is going to be, I don't think he said really anything to me for the first 3 or 4 days. It was all nodding and shaking of heads, but I've seen him slowly come out of his shell, which has been really cool. And then English, reading and writing and letters and sounds, they have done so much better. One of my boys didn't know really any of the letters, and now he knows the alphabet and all the sounds. So it's slow progress, but I'm glad there is some progress.
Academics is just one example of what children learn in school. Learning how to interact with other children, play, and communicate are also vital skills to master in elementary school.
Language is a barrier, but at the same time, play is play.
John Huffstedler is the assistant principal at University Hills Elementary School. This elementary school is one of the most diverse in the district, hosting children from all over the world thanks to its proximity to New Mexico State University.
We found that soccer is pretty universal. So they're making friends, and the friends that they're making are helping them know when to go where, and when they need to go to lunch, how that procedure is for lunch, how to transition to different specials classes. They always have at least 1 or 2 buddies, and the other students have been great about wanting to meet new people and befriend them, and what's this culture all about, and they've really stepped up for us.
However, the refugees are not just limited to one school. With over 60 students across the district, ranging from early elementary to upper high school, many of the challenges these kids have faced have been dealt with at the district level through the Bilingual Education and Community Outreach Department.
We've found services to provide on-demand translation. We have found some resources in Dari and Pashto that can help us with students and families understanding what we're showing and help develop their English.
As the students and families adapt and start to grow in Las Cruces, one thing has been made very clear. Without the support of volunteer groups, resettlement agencies, and the community, this transition may have been much more challenging. For KRWG Public Media, this is Noah Race.
Dr. Ahmed, I'd like for you to expand a little bit on the role that the Islamic Center has played for these new community members.
The role that we play is that of comfort, is that of familiarity. They are coming from Afghanistan with, which is an Islamic country, and for them, being close to the mosque is very crucial because this is a part of their life. So when they come to the Islamic Center, it feels to them that they are back home. They are back, to their God. Okay, so it gives them a sense of peace. Okay, for anybody, especially for many of the Muslims, a mosque, an Islamic center is a source of peace. You go over there, you cry to your God, of all the troubles, and you feel relieved. And that is the sense of comfort that the Islamic Center tends to provide to the Afghan refugees.
You mentioned living in peace when you spoke with Noah. You mentioned that they want dignity, that they want respect. Do you feel that these things are coming to them now that they are here in Las Cruces?
Yes, yes. I mean, their work will speak for themselves. Their dedication will speak for themselves. You know, I know these people that once given an opportunity, they are very hardworking. They will work, they are very sincere. They are, and I feel once people see them, they will be like impressed by them that these people are so efficient. You know, they follow the commands. You know, they're very honest people, and I think their work will speak for themselves. And the more they expose themselves to the community, the more the community will start to like them and help them.
Do you believe that they are being made to feel welcome in Las Cruces?
Now, everybody is different, right? For example, majority, you know, I would say 90% of them are welcoming, right? But you have 10% of these people who feel that these Afghan people are taking their money, right? You know, all the funds are going to you. This is our hardworking money going to you. So I have had instances where some of the Afghan refugees have told me that I've had some neighbors coming and shouting at them, leave, okay? And there are majority of the cases where people, the church, you know, people are so helpful, bringing them clothes, you know, getting out of the way to help them go to the clinics, to see their doctors, to help them, you know, set up in daycare. So there are a lot of good Samaritans, okay? I would say 90 to 95%, you know, it's a good experience, but you do have that 5%.
So many people expressed interest in helping the new arrivals early on. Do you feel like that spirit has continued since those earlier days?
It's human nature, you know, that everybody is motivated initially and it tends to kind of fade. You know, I feel the people are still motivated, but, you know, it's just fading a little bit. You know, it could also be because many of the Afghan refugees are leaving the city, okay? And then we ourselves are feeling sad that we are not able to help them much, okay? So I would say, you know, definitely the energy that was before has kind of come down.
So at this point, Dr. Ahmed, what kind of help is appreciated and needed from the community?
We need help with transport, right? For example, if it's going to be summertime, it's going to get very hot, right? So we need help at least if, you know, if they are going for jobs, you know, it's going to be difficult for them to cycle all the way in the heat. You know, maybe, you know, if they can have an electric scooter, that will help. Or if somebody could help them train to get a driver's license, okay? You know, volunteers who can help them teach driving, can help them teach getting CDLs, okay? You know, so we need volunteers who will be helpful in teaching because they are ready to learn. They are ready to learn, but they just need help because they're still adapting to the system. They're still, but I've noticed they are catching up English so fast. They're learning English, you know, and in no time they will be having conversational English. Okay.
What is the best way if someone who was watching you just now said, I can help with that? What is the best way to go about that?
The best way would be to contact at the Islamic Center, and so that we can have everything channelized. Yes.
You know, I wanted to get back to something we just touched on a little bit earlier, and that was all of the loved ones that had to be left behind. Obviously, those families need to be reunited. Do you think there is appropriate action being taken at this point to make that happen?
the actions are being taken, but the resources are minimal. So the process of achieving that is very slow. And that tends to account for the frustration. For example, many of the Afghan refugees who have come here who would like to get their green card, who would like to settle here, we do not have enough immigration lawyers to help with their cases. And now, if there's no sufficient immigration lawyers, their cases will not move ahead. And they will not be able to bring their families back here because nobody is there to guide them. So those are the challenges. Resources are minimal, immigration lawyers are minimal, and many of the settlement agencies, they have limited resources.
I want to get back to the topic of immigration in just a moment, but of course, millions of Afghans are now at risk of starvation, according to recent reports. What do those who are here in the United States now worry most about regarding their family members that were left behind?
I think the biggest thing is food, safety, security. Many of the people out there, they do not have a job. No jobs, they cannot get money to buy the essential resources. So the way, what I have heard is many of their friends are borrowing money from here and there to get the food. And now people who are here, they are trying to send money there with whatever hard work they have put in over here. But it is very, very challenging back in Afghanistan with what's happening.
Let's get back to the immigration status now. Is humanitarian parole, which allows them to stay in the country 18 months under temporary protected status, appropriate, do you think, for their circumstances?
I mean, it starts with a temporary status, but there is a pathway for them to get citizenship. So as long as they are given that pathway, okay, and the process is efficiently being followed, I think in 18 months, most of them should be able to settle here permanently. If not, then the government might have to extend this temporary stay, because practically speaking, you cannot send them back.
Do you have any concerns that they will end up in some kind of immigration limbo, caught in between?
High chances, yes. But I believe the government understands the situation. Government understands the criticality of the situation, and I believe in the American government that they will work to make sure that justice is given.
Refugees in the past, including for people from Cuba, Vietnam, and Iraq, have been given permanent residency, and refugee advocates have been pressing Congress to pass the Afghan Adjustment Act, which would grant the Afghans permanent residency and enable them to apply for U.S. citizenship. Is this the appropriate solution, and is this what you would advocate for?
I would advocate for it, but is this the only solution? I mean, it could be one of the solutions, because the more information that you get, the more challenges that you get to know, you make amendments to the acts and you create more pathways to help them get settled here. But that is one of the act, and I think it will help them, yes.
You know, we have heard so much about so many employers who have trouble keeping a full staff. Has it been the case for the Afghans that they have been able to find employment easily, or has that been more difficult than we might realize?
So the biggest challenge is language barrier. That's the biggest challenge. Otherwise, many of the people are ready to hire them, okay, and those who have already hired them, especially those Afghan refugees who speak English, many of the employers are very happy with them. Okay, so I feel it's just the language barrier that's preventing most of them to get a job. Apart from the language barrier, the other critical part is there's a delay in many of them getting a social security card. There's a delay in them getting a work authorization. Okay, and that is kind of affecting them getting a job because most of the employers tend to pay a check, and they cannot have a bank account unless they have a social security number or work authorization. So that is also delaying things.
Well, with the little bit of time we have left, how hopeful do you feel the refugees here are about their future in the United States?
I would say they're very optimistic. And this is the beauty of America. This is a land of opportunity. All right? This is the land of opportunity. You work hard, you will grow. This is what makes America great. And people in Afghanistan, people who've come here, they know that.
Dr. Syed Rafique Ahmed of the Islamic Center of Southern New Mexico, thank you so much for being on with us today.
Once again, thank you for having me.
And that's our time for now. Join us this week on KRWG Radio. Every weekday, it's morning edition from 5 to 9, Fresh Air at 11, and that's followed by Here and Now from noon to 2, with All Things Considered from 4 to 7. And KRWG News is always online at krwg.org. And we'd like to hear from you. Email us with story ideas and video submissions. The address is feedback@nmsu.edu. For all of us at KRWG News, I'm Casey Counts. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time on Newsmakers.